Welcome to Postpartum Unfiltered.
The podcast where we get real about what happens during the postpartum period.
I am Jillian,
And I'm Sara.
and we are two doctor moms who are not prepared for what postpartum would bring.
By sharing your stories, we hope to spread awareness and allow other families to be more prepared for the time after birth.
Hello and welcome to Postpartum Unfiltered. Today I am here without Sara because she's off being a full-time doctor and mom, but I'm here today with Kyle. Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Jill. Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Again, my name is Kyle. I am a kindergarten special education teacher and a mom to my 3-year-old son, Maxwell, and currently 32 weeks pregnant with our second son.
Oh, how is it with the toddler and the pregnancy?
Very busy, very tiring. We're kind of getting near baby, and Maxwell has decided, I'm not going to sleep anymore, and I'm going to be very attached to mommy. So we might have a little bit of adjusting ahead of us.
Perfect.
But other than that, doing all right.
Okay, good. So, is there anything about your birth experience with Maxwell that feels relevant to share about your postpartum experience?
Yeah, so just as a preliminary statement, time heals all. And having friends that are very open and support systems and platforms like this where you can share real stories and not just get the, oh, I'm good, everything's great, you're going to love it. I think it really allows women to share their actual experiences. So again, thank you for having me.
Of
And
course.
although my birth story and my postpartum is very iffy and scary. I am 32 weeks pregnant, so I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
So again, time heals all, and hopefully this time will be a much better story.
Okay. So what happened when you gave birth the first time?
Yeah, so very similar to you. We have to backtrack 3 years, like your first son in the middle of COVID. Really good times. So I was 9 months pregnant, teaching hybrid, half in person, half online, wearing a mask and shield, wasn't eligible for a vaccine yet. So just trying to stay healthy while 9 months pregnant. And of course, I got COVID.
Oh, no.
So you feel awful. You're very drained. You lose all of your strength and energy. And then it's time to give birth. So I think just going into the birth experience already exhausted and not at my best health was a big challenge. I do have to say, I think I'm the only woman in the world that said, I'm glad I'm late, because if I were on my due date or before, I would have had to give birth alone.
Oh,
they weren't
no.
going to let my husband in the hospital.
Oh, no. Yeah, that would have been
wild.
so rough.
Yes. So thankfully, he was able to come with me. I just had a very wild, traumatic labor, very intense contractions right away. I went from 0 to 1 minute apart with nothing in between. So they actually had to give me medication to slow it down and regulate it. So it was just not a great experience. And my husband, as you know, is a medical malpractice attorney. So when he knows a doctor, it's not necessarily a good thing, because that means, they did something. Yeah. So I'm already in the throes of labor, already in so much pain. I request the epidural because, I need it.
Yeah.
And my husband goes, oh, hey, doctor, whatever. And I said, excuse me, you know him? He goes, yeah, we're actually in a case together. I'm like, get out.
Nope.
Out.
Pass.
No, don't want you in here. If he knows you, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So, every single thing that could have been thrown into the pot of wildness happened. So I did I was in labor for a very, very long time. And I had a midwife delivering me. And, when you're in the throes of things, you're not really, and a first-time mom, I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
And another midwife that I had been working closely with heard I was there. She was just thankfully on triage. So she came in to check on me and saw that things were not going well and how the monitors were not actually set up. So all the fetal monitors were on me, but not actually detecting anything. And although there were nurses in there, no one caught this, apparently.
Oh, gosh.
So she took over, kicked everyone out of the room, brought in all new people. So I knew something was going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But she couldn't really tell me at the time. So I'm, contracting, trying to push. And then she gets all the fetal monitors back on and things start beeping like crazy. And then I'm in panic mode.
Of
So
course.
he wasn't responding. There was meconium. He, it wasn't doing well. I wasn't doing well. I spiked a fever. It was a mess. At that point, I had already been pushing for almost 3 hours.
Oh, my God.
And basically, they called in a doctor who unfortunately had zero bedside manners and said, if you don't get him out within the next 5 minutes, we have to push him back up in and do an emergency C-section.
That sounds terrible.
Like, that's not the direction of how this should go.
Yeah,
So,
it should be a one-way transit.
Absolutely. I already got him this far down. I'm not pushing him back up in. That doesn't seem like how nature intends things to be.
Yeah.
So miraculously, I got him out within the next 5 minutes. You better believe it.
Right.
And birthed him. Unfortunately, he came out with an APGAR score of 1, which is basically not responding, not crying. He was limp. He was blue. And I didn't really know any of this. They just, in your birth plan, as a first-time mom, you take all these classes, you read all these articles. Oh, I want to do delayed cord clamping and have him on my chest. And all of that was thrown out the window, didn't have those choices. So basically, they cut the cord, took him right away, didn't get him on my chest, and they whisked him away to all of the NICU staff that was there. So I had my husband go follow because I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. When he left, did you know if he was breathing?
I knew he was not breathing.
Oh, that's horrifying.
So all I knew is my baby's not crying. He looked blue. And there was no sort of detection of any breathing.
Thanks.
So I'm in a state of panic, confusion, just not knowing what's going on. So I sent my husband. So then I'm alone,
right,
birthing the placenta, not knowing anything. So that was a very, very scary experience. I don't know who was watching over us, what kind of miracle occurred. He is perfectly okay. They were able to get him breathing. His APGAR score for the second check went up. Again, he's a perfectly healthy, happy, wonderful 3-year-old today.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was very, very scary.
How long was he in the NICU?
So just an hour or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it really wasn't
nice.
long at all.
Yeah.
They were able to treat him kind of right then and there, and then we were able to get him right back, which was amazing. So he really didn't have a NICU stay, which was wonderful. We were able to take him to the postpartum room with us, and all of his vitals and everything stayed up, and they were not concerned about him. Me, on the other hand, I contracted a bunch of infections.
Oh my God,
I was the one that they were worried about. Yeah. So, So we finally get over to the postpartum room, and, when you have the epidural, they put in the catheter, and I kept saying, it feels like I have to pee. It shouldn't feel this way. Like if it's draining, everything. Right. I was like, I really have to pee. And they're like, oh, you're fine. What do you mean? So I said, no, something isn't right. And I think even if you've never been through this experience before, just listening to and knowing your body, when you know something's wrong, you have to be the advocate for yourself, because You don't really have anyone else looking out for you.
Yeah.
So they checked on it and it was not draining correctly at all. So they pulled it out and out came everything. So that all being backed up gave me another infection.
Wonderful.
It was just
Just what a choice experience.
absolute. Yeah,
It's funny too,
absolute
because
disaster.
like you talked about with the birth plan, you don't plan for these things that happened with the birthing part, but you also don't
Correct.
plan for all this stuff that might happen to you. The birth plan really is kind of focused on what I want to get the baby out, not like
Yes.
what things might happen to me during that process, other
I
than like, please
honestly,
don't give me an episiotomy. But like,
right. I truly didn't even consider myself in that equation. I
Right.
thought everything for the baby. Like you said, we don't
Yeah.
really put, oh, yes, I want this and I want this for me. It's all for the baby. So
Yeah.
all these things were just very unexpected. So, with the wild labor, the C-section threat, we were in our first night and off goes the alarm of code pink in the hospital. And it's 3 a.m., wild lights and sirens going off, code pink, code pink. So, of course, my husband and I Google it because we had no idea. And it's missing baby.
Yeah.
So I start to freak out. I'm like, oh my God, where's Maxwell? He's right in the bassinet. It's fine. Apparently, it was a baby's bracelet slipped off and they thought someone took it. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Jill.
I
It
was
was
gonna
the
say
most
horrifying.
horrifying experience.
When I had my second one, they had like a bracelet, like a security tag from clothes
Yeah.
on our baby, and they were like, "Please make sure you take this off when you
Yes.
go to leave because it will set off all the alarms, and the
Right.
police will come find you."
Oh my
with
gosh.
your own baby, Yeah. The first hospital
Wild.
didn't do that. They were like, "He's got your name on him, and if it falls off, sorry." I was like, "All right."
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was, just another thing to panic about. But again, all was well. We were able to leave the hospital. And so past that, postpartum, I just, being at Mental Health Awareness Month and everything, I know you've talked about this in past podcasts, and I think it's so important to talk about just that postpartum mental health for moms. Everyone asks how the baby is, and it's all about the baby. And then mom kind of gets put to the wayside and no one really talks about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's an amazing platform to talk about. And it's wonderful if you don't deal with any postpartum depression or anxiety or anything. Unfortunately, I did. And I know that it's super common. So
Yeah.
I didn't know how common it really was because not many people talk about it.
Sure.
So I remember going to my 6-week checkup, like the one checkup that you get.
Mhm.
And there was that chart. It was, do you feel depressed? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel this? And I was checking off yes, yes, yes to every box, but then starring and writing in, but it's just postpartum, but it's just postpartum.
Oh,
Like
Kyle.
trying to make it sound better. And I remember getting back to the room and my doctor's like, no,
Yeah,
this
you're
isn't
not cool.
normal. Like
Yeah.
we need to discuss this. It's not just because you're postpartum.
Yeah.
So she was wonderful. Again, having doctors that listen to you and are open to discussions is just a blessing. And I have a wonderful doctor. So she, was able to set me up with a medication that really, really helped me. Also, just therapy and talking, because it's not normal if I, come home from the hospital and I'm sobbing because I miss my dog because the dog's still at my parents' house. Like that, that's just wild,
Yeah.
out of control. Like love my dog, but I shouldn't be, so upset over it.
Yeah.
So, so I was set up from the get-go with, medications and therapies and a really good support system. But I think for women that are afraid of asking for help or maybe don't have friends and family that are so open to it, it is really important just to really listen to yourself and advocate for yourself as well.
Yeah. So with the mood stuff, did you start
Um,
feeling that as
and
soon as you
and
got home?
even though, I'm sorry, Jill, what was that?
With the mood symptoms, did you start feeling them as soon as you got home?
Literally the second I walked in the door.
So
I
wild.
felt I felt guilty that my dog wasn't here, that I wasn't being a good dog mom, and then I just went overboard. It just kept spilling out. And
Yeah.
everything was just so emotional, so over the top.
So do you
Um,
feel like your expression of that was crying a lot? Like you felt like overwhelming sadness and like need to express tears?
yes, very much overwhelming sadness. And I think
Uh,
it was really tough because my postpartum not only was all the emotions, but with all these infections, I actually had to go back about 3 days later to get rehospitalized. I had blood clots.
oh gosh.
And so I just felt like I was, failing. Like there is something wrong with my body. I'm unable to care for my newborn.
Yeah.
It was just really, really, really tough. And being in, not a great mental health state and then also a really horrible physical state. I had to go to chiropractic and physical therapy and
Yeah.
nutritionist, and I was losing weight, and it was just a whole mess. So
Yeah.
just taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and now, ta-da, you're in charge of a brand new human. So it was just a lot, a
Yeah.
lot going on.
Yeah. And not to mention you're not sleeping at all. So none of that
Oh yeah,
helps
no.
with physical recovery or mental health status or any of
Oh
the
yeah.
stress.
There's no sleeping. No,
Yeah.
absolutely
Who needs it?
not. Yeah.
Not important.
Especially when breastfeeding, too. I know you've talked
Hmm.
a lot about breastfeeding. I was very fortunate that Maxwell did latch on. He was a great breastfeeder, did it for 16 months.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, he it was hard for him to give up, but it's funny. Like he probably would still do it today if I allowed it. But
Yeah.
at that point, I was like, all right, you're ready. I'm ready. We're good to go.
Yeah.
But it's really hard, and I have a friend going through it right now of trying to stop breastfeeding, and she's around that like 16, 17 month window that I was with Maxwell, and she is like, I can't do it. Like I can't stop him. I'm depriving him, it. And you really, although it's a beautiful, beautiful gift you're giving them, it takes up so much of your time.
Yeah, it really
It's a
does.
full-time
It
job
is on
in
top
and
of
of
everything
itself.
else.
Absolutely. Pumping, breastfeeding, any sort. It's a lot. Takes a toll on you emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
I really loved it and enjoyed it. Did not love pumping back at work.
Yeah.
That's a
Pumping's the worst.
whole other story.
Yeah. So what made you decide that the 16-month mark was the time to wean from breastfeeding?
Yeah, so my milk started to deplete around that time. He's 16 months, he's eating foods, he's drinking whole milk. I really felt like it was almost just a comfort thing at that point. I had kind of weaned down to just at nighttime, and it was just a really like comfort, not so much you need this as nutrition at this point anymore. And I was surprised he did so well with it. He was able to just kind of slow down and wean. And I was the one that had difficulty with it. I was so emotional, and I didn't think I was going to be. I thought, I'm going to drink wine when I put him down at night. I don't have to breastfeed anymore. This is going to
Yeah.
be great. And I was so emotional. I really missed it. And I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
So,
that's kind of like the tagline of postpartum. I was
yes.
really emotional and did not expect that.
Yes. Pretty much you can end any sentence about postpartum with that line.
Yeah. And there's such a range of emotions.
Such a range. Yeah.
And how was your physical recovery after all the infections and the like prolonged pushing and the vaginal delivery?
Yeah. So that was really, really rough. I, again, when pushing for 3 hours, I was in all sorts of crazy positions, and I end up with a bulged disc in my spine. As you know, had to go to the chiropractor, physical therapist. It was just a long journey. I also just lost so much muscle tone. I was very sick, couldn't keep any food down. So I was just losing weight, losing strength. So it was very difficult for me. So this time around, I'm really making that strength and nutrition and everything a priority, and hoping I don't get COVID 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
So this time around, I also feel like there's more available to me. In COVID, I wasn't going to go to the gym and work out. I was terrified. So this time around, I'm doing a class with a very dear friend of mine who's a trainer. She does all sorts of prenatal, postnatal classes. So trying to build up my strength and energy. So hopefully this time around will be a lot better.
Yeah, that's amazing. And with the mood stuff, how long did it take you to feel like you were making progress or feeling better or feeling more like yourself?
That's a good question. I feel like it was a forever long process. I can't say, it was, this many weeks or this many months. I feel like I was kind of an up and down roller coaster with it. At times I would be okay. And then when you're switching over from newborn to 3-month clothes, I had a full-blown crying meltdown on the floor. Like, why is this so difficult to change out his closet? I don't know. I don't know why. Again, very emotional and didn't expect it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there were just highs and lows. And I think that continued, past a year, but I would say mostly highs with the support that I did have. But again, there's those times of emotions that just kind of sneak up on you and you don't expect it. But overall, getting past all of those trials and tribulations that we did go through, ended up with a pretty positive experience in the end. Can't say it was easy to get there, but we're doing it again.
Yeah. And so did you feel a connection with Maxwell immediately, or did that develop over time?
I actually did feel a connection right away. I'm very lucky to say that, because I know a lot of people do struggle with that, but I did feel that connection right away, which was something that, when you think about what happens and you do expect, I think that's maybe one thing that I expected that actually went my way. So I will take it as a win.
You're 1 for 75. So
my one thing that went according to plan, I felt that connection. So that's all I got, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. And I know that being a mom's really important to you, and that you would say that you truly love motherhood. Is that how you felt this whole time, even though you had this difficult
I've always loved motherhood throughout this whole journey. However, there were times that it was so hard. Those months when they start walking and have that rainbow of bruises on their head from running into everything in sight. I could have made some better choices during that time, of maybe some choice words that I said or how I felt.
There was a period where I felt like I needed to keep all the incident reports from school that said he fell down, he bumped his head, somebody took his toy. It's not us. He's just clumsy. He can't walk yet. Please. He's trying to figure it out.
There's no perfect world out there, especially with a growing baby and toddler. Oh, they're wild. Wild.
I know. And these boys are something else.
I'm telling you, now with 2, you're going to have to give me some pointers.
I don't know. Figure it out. Honestly, for me, it's been okay, what's the priority? For us, sleep was the priority, because I already knew I did horrible without sleep. I didn't realize how horrible until we had the first child. And then I wasn't sleeping, the physical recovery, the breastfeeding, all the stuff that we talked about. And I was terrible. And so it just really felt like getting the priorities in order is helpful, because when you know what's important to you, then you can kind of let the other stuff go, because you've already said, hey, this is not as important. So I'm going to have to just forget about that for a minute, because there's just no way to do it all. And I think that's where we're really hurting ourselves, is there's this fallacy that we should be able to do it all. So then everybody feels like they're failing.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And you want to do it all too. You want to be that super mom that has it all together. it's impossible. And if you see people on Instagram or whatever that look like they have it all together, they don't. There's just no
Yeah.
way.
They're lying. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, listen, this friend that I know is posting, oh, this beautiful breakfast she made for her boys, and it's amazing. It's so cute. And then I look at myself and like, my child just ate a leftover soft pretzel from Monster Trucks that we went to the day before for breakfast. Like, yikes. That's
Yeah.
maybe not the best, but you know
It's
what?
fine. He needs carbs for
You
energy.
have to
It's
pick and
fine.
choose your battles. You have to roll with the punches, whatever works. And I've just learned, something that works for you might not work for someone else, and vice
Exactly.
versa. It's so hard not to compare yourself, but you just have to know in your heart that you are doing the best for you and your child or children, and
Yeah.
you just have to. It's a live and learn experience.
It's always so wild to me that we have to kind of fight the urge to judge others in their parenting decisions, because I think of it kind of like even in our spouse choices, right? Like, I think my husband's great. You think your husband's
Right.
great. I think your husband's great, but I don't want to be married to him. And I'm not like,
Exactly.
oh my God, Kyle, how could you have married Aaron? Ugh. But, but like we do that with parenting decisions. Like, obviously your situation's different, so you're going to make different choices, and that is better for your family, your child, your situation than mine. But that doesn't make my choice wrong.
And it's funny. You always say these things, oh, when I'm a mom, or when I have a toddler, or when I have a baby, I'm never going to do that. And then you live it and you're like, oh, I get it now. I'm so sorry for any of the people that I judged out at the restaurant with an iPad or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I get you now. I'm on your level. It is okay.
Yeah. A big one for us is like food off the floor. Like, we try our best, but it's like
Yep.
It happens. Immune system boosting. You're
all
fine.
going to be okay. They're all going to eat pizza and drink beer in college eventually. Anyway. It's going to be okay.
Have you seen the way young men live in college? It's disgusting. So
it's so gross.
There's no way my house isn't cleaner than that, like by a lot. So,
right? So
I'm winning.
We're totally winning.
We're on top. Is there anything else important about your postpartum that you want to talk about?
I think we discussed everything, but again, Jill, I just wanted to thank you. I think this platform is incredible. It's really, brought so much to light, even for me, 3 years postpartum, just hearing other women share their stories is amazing. I think, just continue it. We can all learn from each other, and it's just wonderful to have that open and honest conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we were able to finally find a time where we could sit down and chat about your experience, because I think it is great, like you said, to share and hear all these different stories. And so I think all these mom voices matter, and we've been conditioned to kind of feel like they don't, especially if there's any negative part to it. And that's kind of the awareness. Like, there's a whole range. You had these tough experiences, but you still love motherhood, and that's great.
Right. Exactly. Right.
All right. Well, thanks again for being here, and I will see you next time.
Yes. Thank you, Jill.
All right, bye.
Thank you for listening to Postpartum Unfiltered.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, comment, or leave a review.
You can follow us on Instagram at postpartum.unfiltered.
If you feel called to share your postpartum experience, please contact us on Instagram or at drjilliancampbell.com.